Alright, in this video we're going to talk about how to start writing, solving the blank page problem. A lot of times when we begin writing, we have issues about the blank page. Most writers will have problems with the blank page and look for ways of getting past that. And if you're sitting there in front of your computer right now, or you got to start writing your essay, and you start panicking because it's blank, it's logical. I mean, because the first thing we got to learn about writing, here's a simple fact about writing, is writing is hard. It's just hard. Okay, any writer can tell you that. Some people may feel like it's easy. It's only because they developed, different ways of coping over time. But writing, in itself is difficult. If writing were easy, everyone would be writers. Everyone would have that if it were so. And a lot more people would be making money off of writing. It is not easy. All right, so there's some pre-writing and brainstorming ideas. So if you're sitting at the blank page, where to begin, you want to reduce the amount of expectations there are when you're trying to come up with ideas, because the more you have to think about, the more stressed out you're going to be. Okay, so the first, here are some ideas that you can use to help you brainstorm. So some of the ideas would be like free writing, writing a letter, journaling, list making, reading. Okay, sometimes you read and they'll relax your mind and you're going to end up having ideas. So free writing is just sort of writing without any restraint. You just sit down and start writing it. In fact, most of my first drafts are based off of free writing. What does that mean? One, I time myself. I will give myself a time period, like maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, and I'll just sit down, for that period of time and write straight based off of the topic that I'm looking at. Just write without stopping, write without editing or anything like that. The goal is to be able to help you get material so that you can edit. And in a previous lecture, we talked about the recursiveness of writing and how that we lose time if we're too busy trying to edit what we just wrote. So the key to successful writing is to get a product out there first without any restraint, even with a lot of mistakes and errors all over the place, repetition, whatnot, because the goal is, well, it's easier to write something, to revise something and make something better that exists than it is to write something fresh and better at the same time. Okay, so other ideas that you can have are clustering, outlining or scratch outlining like doodling, talking, dialogue. Some people are oral processors, which means they need to talk to somebody in order to have ideas. So you got to find a safe person, a good person who's willing to listen to you, maybe sometimes interact, for you to talk through your ideas. And then testing bases of thinking. So sometimes you can create a little test for yourself, a little experiment to help you get started. Okay, it's sort of, it depends on you. Putting ideas in a different context. So you take your idea and then you go ahead and you put it in a different situation just to see how it'll work. So if you're writing about writing and you're writing about how your childhood influenced your ability to write, you could always move it to a different time period or in your life and see how high school helped you write, or what was one person from your personal life that helped you write and that wasn't about childhood or anything like that. Okay, so putting it in a different context. So how do I make it easier once I begin to face that blank page? Well, writing rough drafts makes life less stressful and makes writing easier. So to make it easier, you have to write drafts. Okay, in each draft you focus on doing one thing. That way you don't have to end up crowding your draft with all these different things, tasks that you have to do, and you end up bottlenecking with stress because you're thinking about 10 different things at the same time. So the first draft would be like, I just want to answer the question as best as I can without going back to fix it, and you just answer the question. The next draft would focus on then, well, let's make it make more sense. So you read through it and check the logic of it. And then the third draft would be, well, I'm going to look for grammar now and clean that up. Each time you focus on one thing makes it easier, but that means you have to plan it out. Okay, so if you're writing an essay and stuff, if you're waiting to the last minute, then you can only be able to do the first one. And if you're trying to do all three tasks at the same time, your ideas, logic, and then grammar, then of course you're going to get stressed out and break down. And if you wait to the last minute to do that, then you're not going to necessarily have a great result. So you have to sort of pace yourself. I mean, how much stress do you want? Weigh the stress that you get at the last minute versus, you being able to have a nice product to turn in. over time, and you're only doing a little bit at a time. Some people operate with that fallacious logic that you can work better under stress, and that's kind of interesting to watch them to be able to do that. Yes, sometimes you might be able to produce something great, but overall, long-term wise, the longer the pieces of writing you have to do, the more difficult it is, and you'll end up, if you operate with that thinking, and you have to end up writing a 20-page, 30-page research paper, you won't be able to pound that out because you haven't built the habits of doing drafts. Okay, so you can change it before you turn it in, and think about when you text. It's exactly the same thing. You don't immediately text your first thought. Most people don't. You're going to end up getting in trouble because you're going to say something that's going to come off wrong. So it's exactly the same. You always stop right before you send the text. Make sure it's exactly what you want to say, and you want to do that with your essay as well. Remember that writing is talking. And so when you write, you want to just treat it like talking. You can go back and change the way that you talk to make it fit the time and place. Remember, there's a time and place for how you talk. You're not going to talk the same everywhere you go because you want different results from different people. All right, you got to gauge who you're writing to and then make a decision of how you're going to talk to them. Okay? The one and only rule. There's only one rule when writing your first draft, and that's get it out of your brain and on the page. Don't even worry about anything else. Get it out of your brain and on the page. It's already going to be a struggle. Don't think about grammar or repetition or anything like that. Okay? Don't worry about grammar, punctuation, or spelling. How many words or sentences or paragraphs? You may be operating under word constraints. Your instructor or whatever you're doing, you may end up having like, oh, I got to write 1,500 words. Well, don't worry about that for the first one. Get your full thought out. That way you can look and identify places where you can add more words. Okay, if you're worrying about making the word count, that's the least priority at this point. Finish your idea first. If you're busy worrying about words, you're going to end up having to cut out stuff anyways at the end, and that's just a waste of time. Get the ideas out, and then you could target the areas that you need to improve. Okay. Don't worry if you repeat yourself. You're going to, but you'll catch it in the next draft. You're going to catch the repetitions. All right? So don't even worry about that and just move forward. Okay? And don't even bother to worry if it sounds stupid. It's going to sound stupid, all right, the first time you type it out. But you don't have to turn that one in. You can refine it to make it better. If you're worried about it sounding stupid, that's kind of silly because it will. And just don't worry about it. You're going to make it sound smarter in the next iterations. Okay, so don't worry about getting it right or perfect the first time. In fact, there's no such thing as right or perfect. There's only complete or done, right? To turn it in. It's just good enough to turn in at that point. If you're trying to make it perfect, the fact that we as humans are not perfect, you're going to end up making 2 more mistakes for every mistake you correct. So getting it perfect is not the thing that you need to worry about on the first draft. Make sure you just get it out. Okay? You can clean it up as best as you can. You could have other people look at it to help you clean it up. And get it as close to perfect in the next iterations, but not in the first one. No way. Okay? So make sure that you're aware of these principles. All right? Don't worry about any of those things. Okay? So how writing really happens. In real life, professional writers spend about 50% of their time editing and revising. That means you have half of your time coming up with the first draft, and then the rest of the time you're fixing it. Okay, you're cleaning it up. So if you're thinking that you can pound it out immediately and have a wonderful essay right away by itself, it's not always going to work that way. Pros are going to tell you spend a lot of time fixing it. Focus on one little part at a time, like I said before. Focus on only one target per draft. Okay? The writers get the details in each consecutive draft a little bit at a time. It's easier to clean up a complete thing than it is to create a thing perfect. Okay, so professional writers also give themselves time to update. So you got to give yourself time to update. You may not be a professional. That's why you need even more time to update. All right, and if the pros do it, so should you. Take it easy. They forgive themselves. So if you mess up on your schedule or you mess up on something that you're writing, you look at it and then there's some missing paragraph or missing idea, Forgive yourself. You're going to be able to get it in there as long as you've given yourself time. Okay? Don't beat yourself up if it isn't exactly the way that you envisioned it originally. Take a look at it, see how you can shape it. Okay? It's really not you, it's a reflection of your work, and you've got to be able to forgive yourself. Create habits or rituals that help them focus and work. It's important to have rituals to help you jumpstart, to signal your mind to begin the work. And it's up to you how you want to do it, right? You want to write a little diary entry before you do it. You want to have a little snack before you start, or something like that. Make sure that you do something that signals to yourself that it's time to work. And preferably you work at the same time every day. That way you get into a habit of it. It's just like working out or exercising. You've got to make sure you have the right rituals to begin your workout, and then you try to work out at the same time every day. It's the same thing for writing. Okay? And make sure you schedule time to work. That you make time. It's the same thing as working out. You gotta schedule that time. The one thing that's really important that's not listed here is also reward yourself. I would recommend rewarding yourself when you've completed your goal for that sitting. Do something fun for yourself. Set aside some reward that you really like and enjoy, and take care of it. All right? So you did 1 hour of writing. Maybe you can spend an hour of like watching your favorite show or playing a video game or doing something that's fun for yourself. I'm not going to suggest food, because sometimes if you do that food, you want to eat right. So if you're going to have like a half a cup of ice cream after every goal, that's going to end up adding to your unhealth. So be careful of that. All right? Make yourself some other goal that allows you to feel reward.